building, the tension's building. This is your grand final to decide the champion.
Still in there. Tournament point. EXP back kick. Oh, jab, jab.
The best Street Fighter V player in the world.
Welcome to the World Warriors of Capcom Cup. My name is UltraDavid.
And I'm Chen. How's everybody going? We are here to talk all about Capcom Cup 2017, which is just right around the corner. And we are going to find out who is the best Street Fighter V player on the planet.
That's right. Of course, Capcom Cup's been around for several years now. It started in Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
And it has continued. This is now the second year of Street Fighter 5.
Yeah, and these guys have been, basically the 32 players that we're going to see this weekend, these guys have had a grueling year of traveling all over the globe. I mean, this is taking place in just all the continents, all the countries, and they've just been playing for probably about 9 months now to accumulate points to make it into Capcom Cup.
Yep. And every year this thing happens. It gets a little bit bigger, a little bit grander, a little bit more interesting, and I think this year's going to be the same way. So let's talk about Capcom Cup. It starts on December 8th, Friday. It goes through Sunday, December 10th. And the first couple of days are going to be in the Anaheim Hilton, which is right next to the PlayStation Experience. That will be the last chance qualifier, and then the top 32. It's free to come and watch.
Nice.
Highly recommend everybody does so. And that's not all that you're going to be able to do there. On top of watching, there's going to be a bunch of cool vendors there, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going on. I'm actually kind of one of the things that they have there is going to be like some collectibles table. And I need to stay away from that. I need to stay away from that because I will probably try to buy everything from there.
So, speaking of toys and collectibles, Cryptozoic, PDP, Loyal Subjects, and Super 7 will all be there. Okay. Red Bull's going to be there with Street Fighter Red Bull cans. The Street Fighter 2 virtual reality setup, which is pretty cool. We saw that.
I actually got to try that at Red Bull Battlegrounds. It was fun.
Definitely. And they're also going to have a giveaway for Street Fighter 5 Red Bull Arcade Machine, which we saw too. And it has cup holders in it. All right? It's pretty sweet. Yeah. That's actually my favorite part about it. There's going to be a We Are One with gallery of women in the FGC that I'm looking forward to checking out.
That was also at the Red Bull Battlegrounds as well.
Indeed. There will be Street Fighter apparel from 86, Split Frame, and Insurgo. Nice. BenQ will be there for monitors. Capcom will be there with the official Capcom store. And Yoshinori Ono will be there as well to sign things.
Yeah, he's going to be signing things at one point during the day, so you can go ahead and try to get like a poster signed or maybe bring your copy of your game or something like that, get it signed.
For sure. Then on Sunday, that's going to be when the top 8 occurs. All right, those are the finals. That starts at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Now, if you can't be there in person, these will be streamed, of course. The first couple of days will be streamed on Capcom Fighters and Capcom Fighters 2.
Right, so there's 2 streams for this.
Exactly.
2 streams going on. Last year they did 1 stream, and it kind of made the day go a little bit long for just the top 32. So this year it's going to be 2 streams for you guys.
Definitely. And then, of course, the top 8 will just be on twitch.tv/Capcom Fighters. So let's talk a little bit about Street Fighter V and the storylines this year in Season 2 of Street Fighter V.
Right. I mean, what's cool about this is, so if you guys aren't familiar with this, the way that Street Fighter V has been going, one of the really cool things about what Capcom has done is that last year, Season 1, they didn't really change any of the gameplay. They let the game rock, and that's one of my favorite things about it, right? And then after we crowned the Capcom Cup champion last year, which of course was NuckleDo, then they came out with the Season 2 changes, added some new characters, did some balance changes, and then they let that rock this whole entire year. So the 2 years have been pretty different from each other.
Yeah, some of the characters that show up most frequently, the top tiers, kind of the best characters, are quite different this year.
Yeah. I mean, last year it was all about Chun-Li. A lot of people talked about Ryu.
Yeah.
And they're not so strong as now. They're a little bit weaker than before, and a new set of characters have kind of jumped in there.
Yeah, that's how it always happens.
Yeah, that's standard. That's standard.
Impossible to avoid a tiers list, right? That's always going to happen. But even still, I think the game is quite well balanced.
Yeah. And what's crazy about it, too, is I remember when Season 2 started, there was like 5 names or so that like everybody was always talking about, right? Or at least 3 in particular were Balrog, Laura, and Urien. Those are 3 characters that a lot of people are like, oh my god, these characters are by far the best. They're super, super good. And early on in the year, that's kind of how everyone felt. But I don't feel like that lasted. You know what I mean? Like, those 3 characters aren't even considered. I don't even know if they're considered the 3 strongest. I don't even know if any of them are in the 3 strongest in general public opinion right now.
I mean, I don't think so myself. Although I didn't think so at the start either.
Right.
I'm looking at Rashid.
Yes.
I'm looking at Karen.
Ibuki.
Yeah. I think that's my short list, James.
Yeah, but see, what's cool about that is that there is that variation. You know what I mean? That you can make it that far. I mean, we've had players win premieres with Zangief, like with the Snake Eyes, and we've had players win, in fact, even at Red Bull Battlegrounds in the last chance qualifiers there, in the top 8, we had two Fangs in there, right. And even a Colleen in there.
Right.
So
I really think it's quite well balanced.
Yeah,
and in Season 2, with the new characters, some of them have had big impacts. Of course, Akuma was released in the start of Season 2. Tokido won Evolution this year with Akuma. So that character has, of course, figured in pretty well. But on top of that, Abigail, as the year has gone on, has figured in. We've seen players make top 8s with him. We saw the cool kid win the Red Bull Last Chance NA regional qualifier,
right?
With that character, we've seen Goichi do work with Manat.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
That's pretty cool. We've seen Eds and Colleen's here and there.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, a new character was just released.
Yeah,
pretty recently.
Yeah,
and that's Zaku, of course. And when he first dropped, I kind of looked at him and was like, okay, I'm not sure he's going to factor too. But that's actually turned out to be completely wrong.
Yeah.
Because some players, I'm thinking like Big Bird, for example, is like one of the premier examples. They've really started to figure this character out. And this character seems much stronger than I originally thought he was going to be. So
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if some people bust him out and hope that their opponents are unfamiliar with this character.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. No, I think we should keep an eye out for Zaku.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not just about the game; it's about the players as well.
Right? Yeah.
Here in Street Fighter V, there have been times throughout the year, especially towards the start, I would say, when some people were beginning to see the hints of parity between North America and East Asia.
Well, look, NuckleDo won last year, right? And
yes.
Grand Finals was between 2 U.S. players.
He and Ricky Ortiz.
Yeah, and then at the start of this year, everything was dominated by Punk. And I even still remember at NorCal Regionals, like, Punk played Fudo. And Fudo, who's one of the greatest players of all time, of all fighting games, like, he played Punk last and he was like, this guy's too good. Like, he actually was just like, this guy's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
There was a point in time where it looked like Street Fighter V became US's game.
Right, yeah. Yeah. And those weren't the only players doing well from the US, of course. Other people won majors from the US, placed very highly from the US. I don't think that's lasting. I'm going to be honest with you, James. Punk still seems like certainly one of the best players.
Yeah.
He's leading the points in Capcom Pro Tour standings. I really think that Japan in particular has bounced back and is probably the strongest again. Yeah,
they've been winning a lot of the events recently and winning them pretty convincingly as well.
Agreed.
Now, that's not to say they've been beating Punk. Punk has been, keeping up with them. But you mentioned, that there was a lot of U.S. players. But right now it feels like the bulk of the strongest players do feel like they hail from Japan and in different regions in Asia as well.
Yeah,
so.
I agree with that. We'll, of course, talk more about the players later. But Punk and his ascendance, I thought, was one of the major storylines of the year. He really burst onto the scene at the end of last year at Red Bull Battlegrounds. And then over this past year, he has been in 21 Grand Finals.
What?
Yes. That is a statistic for you.
You know
accurate.
What? I said it was 9 months. That means he's been in more than 2 Grand Finals per month.
Hey. There it is. So he's been doing just fantastic.
Right.
Last year, when it started out, it seemed like Infiltration was that guy.
Yeah, because he was beating everybody. He won, it was like Red Bull Kumite, NorCal Regionals, and then he won...
Final round.
Yeah, final round. He won EVO. He was just winning everything. He was winning everything.
Well, it fell off.
Yes, towards the end of the year, he wasn't as strong, and in fact, at Capcom Cup itself, went 0-2.
Right. Now, he wasn't the only person to be a surprise and do that. Tokido also did. But Tokido, he had a great battle against Infiltration at the start of Street Fighter V. It was really those two.
Yeah, they were in like 3 or 4 grand finals, and Tokido finally won at CEO.
Indeed, he did. And Tokido also won against Punk when Punk seemed like he was the best at Evolution this year. So it's very interesting to watch Tokido continue to be one of the best players in the world. He's one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I remember halfway through the year, I really felt like Punk was kind of on a very similar track to Infiltration, which is why the comparison to me is so interesting, that both of them started off so strong in the year, and Tokido was just like, no. And of course, like I said, Tokido beat Infiltration at CEO, but then of course, Tokido beat Punk at EVO, but I don't feel like Punk is having the same kind of drop-off that Infiltration has. So that's where the similarities kind of stop at this point.
Punk had a relative slump for himself, where he had some second places.
He had like
some
3
top
second places in a row. God.
Tough times. So he's looking good coming into this thing. But I would say, just as interestingly, other players have really bloomed as the year has gone on.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm thinking in particular of a few. Problem X has been just tearing it up.
With Bison.
Yes, with Bison. In Europe, and also when he travels to North America, he has just been playing fantastically. Yeah. I really think he's burst onto the scene as... Well, he's been around, obviously, for a long time, but now it seems like he's really at that very top list.
Yeah, I want to make like little predictions right now.
We'll do it later.
We'll do it later. Yeah, later.
We'll do it later. I wanted to talk about Dogura, who has won a couple of premier tournaments, especially towards the end of the year.
Yeah, and it was interesting because throughout the year, Nemo, who's a super strong player, one of the best fighting game players, of course, on the planet right now, he had been just doing so well with Yuri. And honestly, it always felt like Dogura was Nemo light. Yeah. You know what I mean? It always felt like, he was like not quite there. Yeah. But towards the end of the year, he started taking some pretty stacked majors.
Yes,
and so I feel like, Dogura is right up there, and he's going to be one to be worried about. So
from the U.S., 801 Strider, as the year went on, really became stronger. When Street Fighter V launched, had a rough time with the game. It took him quite a while to figure it out.
He was basically non-existent in Season 1.
Yeah.
He was not around at all. I remember at EVO I was talking to him and how upset he was at himself for how poorly he did at EVO in 2016.
Yeah.
But at the end of this year, he has been making top 8 after top 8 after top 8.
Very consistent stuff. And then, interesting too, we talked a little bit about the characters, but there are people using them. The Rashid players have really they're doing well, I would say.
It's interesting. Rashid has a really interesting storyline, in my opinion, because in Season 1, he started out, everyone was like, this character does no damage, he's not any good, like, well, whatever. But
not everyone.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Okay, fair enough. You also predicted Punk was going to do well. So
well,
you're the Nostradamus. But no, I mean, honestly, Rashid, but by the end of Season 1, we really started to see he was emerging a little bit more with, some players doing really well with him towards the end of the year. Then he got a few buffs in Season 2, and then at the start of the year, like I said, he wasn't one of the, characters that people were calling the cheap, dirty the characters, right? But as the year went on, the Rashid army just got stronger and stronger and stronger, and we had guys like Oil King and Gachakun doing great all year long, and then Moke at EVO. He was the unknown guy who made the top 8 at EVO, not as people knew about him, who weren't as familiar with the Japanese players. Right. But Rashid, I mean, this character, a lot of people think is maybe the strongest character in the game.
He's up there for sure. Now, there's been a lot of consistent play by players too, right? It's not just people coming up on their top level play. There are people who have been there and are still there. Fudo has still been there, right? This is a guy who started out the beginning of Street Fighter V near the top. He got second place at EVO in the first year and has continued to play very, very well. Haitani, before Street Fighter V actually launched, people called him the best player.
Yeah.
And again, that he's been right up at the top.
Yeah, he has not faltered at all. And in fact, it's scary how consistent Fudo and I feel like Fudo and Haitani have been like the rocks.
Yeah.
Like they are the guys who have just been so consistent throughout both seasons.
Agreed. Phenom, I think, has been consistent throughout. Momochi, Knuckle Dew, especially this year, was very consistent after, of course, having won Capcom Cup at the end of last year. He really, at the sort of second half of last year, really came into his own in this game.
It wasn't even like this. I would almost say last third,
something like that. But then this year, it's been continuing for himself. So there are certainly consistent players too.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are some players who you would think would make Capcom Cup, but have not yet qualified to do so.
Dude, I mean, number one on my list right now that I'm still kind of baffled about is Xiaohai right now. Because it's not like Cammy has been just amazing for both seasons. And Xiaohai's performance at a lot of the events he's been traveling too. And he hasn't quite had the success that he had last year. Last year, you remember, he was the one that was becoming the favorite before Knuckle Dew kind of vaulted over him. And then, so I would have expected him to just continue that forward, but I don't feel like and right now, he is not in the top. He has not officially qualified for Capcom Cup.
Indeed.
Right now.
Surprised about Nemo not doing that. Largely, a big part of that was him not traveling all that much, but that's maybe a surprise. MOV, who has been so, very consistent, I would say, but not as consistent here.
2 Evos in a row. Right. So he's made top 8 at 2 Evos, and that wasn't even enough to get him into Capcom Cup.
There you go.
Which kind of is an indication of just how crazy this how competitive this has been. So,
it's tough. It's tough. Gamer B is not in there.
And he's been kind of up. Like he's been the new Taiwan representative is Oil King right now. It feels to me.
I think you're right. Jiwa is not in there, despite going to basically every tournament in the entire year. He was there. He was traveling everywhere.
Dark Jiwa, not Dark Jiwa. He used to be Dark Jiwa. He's just Jiwa now. But honestly, one of my favorite players because he's everywhere. And God, he works so hard at this, and it's not like he's not doing well. He makes top 8s all over the place, but then he always finishes in 7th, and it's just not enough points total. So
it's tough. It's a tough process. PR Rog didn't qualify, and IDOM. Now IDOM, you're right, very close. He almost won the regional NA regional qualifier or finals. I think it's very similar to the Nemo issue of just they didn't travel as much as some other players did, but he's a player who many people think is one of the best in the world. Yeah,
he didn't really start traveling until Evo. Evo was one of the first times he actually went anywhere for a tournament because before he just didn't want to travel to a lot of events. But he's definitely one of the players that people consider one of the strongest in the country right now. And of course, probably the most surprising person not in there right now is Infiltration. Because Infiltration, as we mentioned last year, was so strong, and he was doing so well. He had the 0-2 kind of flame out at Capcom Cup last year, and then this year just hasn't really had any kind of success in the game.
Right. Part of that is that he has had personal stuff.
Yeah, he got married. He got married, right. So
he's not doing nothing in life. All right?
Exactly.
And I think he had a big time character crisis. It's hard for him to know which character to pick. Obviously, all the talent in the world there, but didn't come together for him this time.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm not going to be surprised if next year we see the return of Infiltration.
Don't be surprised, of course. Well, let's talk about how you sort of get into Capcom Cup in the first place. We talked about the players who have made it and who have not. So the top 30 qualify via global points. Points are earned by doing well at big tournaments throughout the year across the globe.
Yeah, there were basically 3 categories of events. There was the ranking events, which is most events. Most events qualify as ranking events. And then there was the premier events, where you would earn a lot more points at those events. If you took those events, I think first place is 400 points, whereas ranking, I think, was around 100 points or so. And then there's Evo. Evo, of course, is the big daddy of them all, and so you just gain, I think it was 1,000 points for first place. So you just gain this whopping amount of points for winning those. And so, as we mentioned, starting in March all the way till now, they've been playing in all these events. We've had dozens of events throughout the year that these players have been attending and earning these points.
So that's how 30 people qualify. Now there are also auto qualifiers. The winners of 4 different regional finals will make it in, assuming they haven't qualified already via points. North America, Asia, Latin America, and Europe.
Right.
the winner of last year's Capcom Cup auto qualifies into this year's Capcom Cup, and then there's a last chance qualifier. As I said, the first day of Capcom Cup is going to be that last chance qualifier.
Yeah.
One person makes it out of that into the top 32, which will then be played the next day.
Right, yeah. And we'll talk about that last chance qualifier a little bit more because that thing is pretty stacked. But
yeah.
One of the things that we should probably talk about, first of all, is that you said one of the spots goes to last year's champion.
Yeah.
And that's NuckleDu.
Yeah.
But very recently, actually, some development came up and NuckleDu tweeted out that he was not going to be able to attend Capcom Cup for personal reasons. And, more power to him. Take care of the things that you got to do. And, honestly, shout-outs to NuckleDu for that. But as a result, the rules stated that if last year's champion could not attend, then they would go down to the next highest placing from last year's Capcom Cup. If it was anybody else who dropped out, we would have just taken the next person in the Capcom Pro Tour ranking board. But because in this particular case it was last year's champion, now second place last year, Ricky Ortiz, is now in the Capcom Cup.
Correct.
Yeah. So, but, she's already said that she's accepted the position, so she's going to be in there. But, the one thing that I do want to talk about NuckleDu, just because he has been such a fantastic and strong player and, just watching how much he's been growing, I really just want to point out, I remember after last year when he won, he was kind of nervous and a little bit, he felt like there was a lot of pressure because he's like, now I'm the one with the target on my back, and now he had felt like this pressure to perform really strongly. And I just want to say that despite the fact that he's not going to be able to compete in Capcom Cup this year, we talked about him as one of the players who was most consistent. I don't think there's any question that he stood up to that pressure and succeeded. I don't think there's any question that he proved that he deserved that title, and he has been so solid all year long.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so shout-outs to NuckleDu, and again, take care of what you need to do, and, as I often say, we await your return, warrior,
You meant it, You got it, dude.
Yeah.
Well, there is going to be that last chance qualifier, right? That's going to be on Friday, as we were talking about. Only one person makes it all the way through that thing, and it is super stacked. Super stacked. Let's take a look at some of the names that we have who have signed up for this thing. The registration is already done. So we have this amazing list of 156 players from at least 14 different countries.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Thing.
And there's a lot of people from, for example, there's a pretty strong contingent from Japan coming.
Oh, yeah.
Even some players that I'm not familiar with, that are coming from Japan.
Yeah,
but
scroll down a little bit.
We got Chris G, Xiaohai, who we mentioned, F-Champ, top 8 finisher at Evo,
right.
K-Rad, DR Ray, Kyle P, MOV, Gamer B, Brian F. Trust me, this is how they're just listed in here.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't sorted by any sort of here's the top player list, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Infiltration's going to be there. XSK Samurai, Kava, also from the Dominican Republic. PR Barag, who we mentioned, is kind of surprising. Alex Myers has been traveling around doing a lot of work. Nemo, who we mentioned. So JB is one of those players that's been really, really strong this year.
Yeah, part of the Rashids.
Yeah. Commander Jesse, LPN, who was up there. Ricky Ortiz is registered here, but obviously now she's in, so
right.
she's not going to be in this tournament. Panoy from San Diego, I'm Still the Daddy from UK.
Aqua from Japan.
Brent is cool, Stupendous. Guilty, Dencadius, Dominion. This is the first page here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
we're just going through name after name after name. There's so many strong players.
What's interesting about this is, like I said, as I go through this page, in fact, I think it was on here we got Shin from Japan. We got a Mexico right here. But once I get to the third page over here, what actually surprised me when I was looking through this list was that here we go. So we got one Japanese player here. We got another Japanese player here. And then, look, 3 more Japanese players over here. Germany, Japan. Look at all this.
Was in
Japan. Dude,
Bahrain.
Japan is sending a lot of people over for this. So they are gunning for that last chance spot.
It's going to be a tough one. And that all takes place in one day. That's all Friday. So, even if...
Brutal!
It is. Whoever wins that thing, keep in mind, it's not like, that's it, you're done. No. You make it into Capcom Cup in 32nd place, and as a result, you play against the number 1 overall seed, Punk.
You get to play Punk.
That's tough. That's a tough call.
It's tough, but you know what? I mean, honestly, it might even be kind of scary for Punk because he doesn't know who he has to play. Well, and whoever just made it through this thing is warmed up that weekend, potentially. So, you
toasty.
Oh, man.
Well, as far as the tournament itself goes, last year, day one took quite some time.
Yeah,
it was not near any hotels, right? So it was difficult for players to sort of get some rest in between.
Right, because the top 8 took place at PlayStation Experience, so the hotel was right next to there. But the getting to the top 8 was at another venue. It wasn't close enough to the hotel, so a lot of players couldn't rest as much and all that. That's all been fixed. That's all been fixed. So everything is taking place at the Anaheim Hilton. So a lot of the players throughout the day, they're going to be able to rest and everything like that and stay at their strongest.
Right. And since there will be 2 streams, hopefully things keep going quickly anyway. It'll be double elimination, of course.
Yep.
So you lose once, you just are sent to the loser side, you're not eliminated. It'll also be 3 out of 5 games every match.
Right. One of the reasons why it was really long last year was because at the end they changed it to 3 out of 5, almost kind of like right beforehand. So now this year they're like, okay, 3 out of 5. We know what happened last year, so boom, 2 streams for you guys this year. So.
And as I sort of implied with the 32nd person facing off against Punk, the seeding is done based on points.
Yes.
So we already know what the brackets are.
Oh, well, one thing we should probably mention... Oh, actually, we could probably bring it up with the brackets. But one of the things to mention is that, Ricky Ortiz took over NuckleDo's spot. NuckleDo was in 3rd seed, but Ricky Ortiz is still going to be seeded by points.
Right.
So she's going to end up in the 31st spot.
Let's bring it up. What do we got?
So this is the top side of the... Oh, actually, this is the bottom... Yeah, this is the bottom half right here. Let's start with the top half over here. There we go. Okay, so we've got the upper half of the bracket over here. And you can see right away that Punk is going to play against the Last Chance Qualifier.
Unknown, TBD.
Yep, and then, of course, next... keep in mind, we're going to have a whole separate video where we're going to go through all of our predictions on all this stuff. So, but it's going to be Daigo versus Brolinho, Kazunoko versus Big Bird, Cien versus Mena RD, and on the other half of this is going to be Haitani Sako, Justin Wong versus Moke, Itabashi versus Phenom, and Problem X versus 801 Strider.
There's so many interesting matchups in there, some with a lot of history, many, many years, decades literally of history. Haitani versus Sako, oh my god. Yeah, but even the ones that are new, I think, are going to be fantastic.
Yeah. And here we go. I mean, dude, look, you were talking about decades old. Tokido and Ricky Ortiz. I mean, you can't get 2 more old school players than that here on the bottom half of the bracket. Gachikun versus Goichi. Bonchan versus Smug. Oh, man. Fudo versus Momochi. Yukadon versus Didimokoff. Oil King versus Snake Eyes. Dogra versus Luffy. And Verloren versus Mago.
Very interesting.
Oof, man. And that's just round 1. That's just round one.
That's right.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll go into this a little bit more in a later video. But man, last year the upsets were real. So
instantly.
Yeah. So who knows what's going to happen this year?
Yeah, it'll be very, very cool to watch. Of course, as we said before, Last Chance Qualifier and Top 32 will be at the Anaheim Hilton Friday and Saturday. December 8th and 9th.
Right, along with a lot of other things to do there.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things to do there, a lot of things to see, a lot of things to buy.
And of course, that'll be right next to PlayStation Experience. Top 8, the finals day, will be at PlayStation Experience itself, at PSX, on Sunday, December 10th. Streamed on Capcom Fighters, twitch.tv/Capcom Fighters. So if you can't make it in person, you can still go virtually on the internet.
Yeah, but also just want to also make sure that everyone understands that the tournament is going to be free to go and to spectate. But if you want to make it into PlayStation Experience, you do have to buy an official PlayStation Experience pass.
That's right. Well, like you said, this is not the only video that we're going to be doing. We're going to have a video where we talk about one half of that bracket.
Yeah, we're just going to talk about the players, not their matchups. We're just going to talk just about the players.
Everybody has a very interesting story. We'll talk about those.
Yeah,
and we'll do 2 videos on that. So we make sure to spend some time on every player. I don't want to leave anybody off the list. And then we'll have a video where we predict. All right,
That's right.
That's right. We're going to lay down the line. We're going to lay down the gauntlet. We're going to tell you what's going to happen at Capcom Cup.
Yeah, 2 years in a row running of really, really wrong predictions. But
Definitely.
you know what? We're going to try again. Third time's the charm.
That's what we're going to say. All right, thanks a lot for joining us for today. We'll catch you later for those videos.